Now, don't say I didn't warn you, but corporate America has sunk to new lows. And what they're doing now is they're delivering a 1-2 punch. If you're looking for a job in corporate America right now, you really have to learn to read the room. Here's what's happening. As if the threat of AI cutting our jobs wasn't bad enough, they're now moving to deep surveillance. They're going to track every badge swipe, how long you're in the building, and then where you are in the building. So stick with me. I'm going to break this down for you. Here's how it started with at least the Samsung story. Back in April of 2025, they had a bad quarter. They just didn't perform as well as they thought they were going to perform for Wall Street. The first move they made at Samsung was to tell certain executives that in order to realize that there's a crisis, and I'm quite sure that the people at Samsung realized that there was a crisis because I'm quite sure that there was a lot of different hysterical, high stress, and intense meetings, and probably pretty um, eye opening emails that were coming out during that time. But regardless, if that wasn't bad enough, what they did with certain executives at that time was to tell them that they needed to be in the office 6 days a week to handle this crisis and essentially, better business, better performance, earnings per share, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. That wasn't bad enough. Apparently, that didn't work out because in May, they then demanded or implemented a full time RTO for employees in US based warehouses. And that's the story with Samsung. But this is actually quite widespread. Now, what's important about this is that this is a tactic that these companies are using for quiet firing. But here's what you need to know. Number one, it's not just badge swiping, it's things like location nudging. And if you don't know what location nudging, look at this fresh hell. Let me share with you exactly what that is and what that means. Not only do you have to be in the office, they're going to make your life hell while you're in the office. And here we go. Let the fun and the games begin. So, location nudging is hey, you're in the office, and they put it, these examples are saying things like for wellness and movement, a way to promote different floors. Hey, take the stairs, get some extra steps. Sounds good. Or suggesting an outdoor break. Sounds good. Great. We love it. But I don't really think that that's what this is about. I think it's really a lot more about, again, collaboration and making sure that you are doing your job and they're getting every penny out of you at all times. Encouraging cross team mingling. The marketing team is grabbing coffee in the atrium right now. Swing by and say hello. That's what location nudging is, and that is being also implemented, not only just the return to office, but the location nudging. It really doesn't end there, however, and let me share with you some other uh, information about this because it's tied to many things. Now, stick with me because our employees, we do have a fun way to fight back, and that's actually there's some hacks, and it's actually quite funny, but we'll save that for a little bit. In a recent article in Wired, somebody was talking about behavior tracking systems. These technologies and more sophisticated location and behavior tracking systems are expanding from blue collar jobs to pink collar industries and even white collar office settings. Depending on the survey, 70 to 80% of large US employers now use some form of employee monitoring, and the likes of PwC have explicitly told office workers and managers that we will be tracking your location to enforce a 3-day in-office policy. However, here's the thing. Again, it's corporate slop. Do they think these through? Do these things work? Several of these earlier technologies like RFID sensors and low-tech barcode scanners have been used in manufacturing, in warehouses, and in other settings for some time, says Wolf Christie, a research of workplace surveillance for cracked labs. We're moving towards use of all kinds of sensor data, and this kind of technology is certainly now moving into offices. However, I think for many of these, it's questionable whether they really make sense. Again, it's not effective, it's about control. Now, I'll tell you what does work, and let me just take a step back before I do that. So, laying out kind of the landscape and what to expect if you are going to go into corporate America or stay into corporate America or whatever, just know what you're walking into. So, AI is a threat. Now, the surveillance, now the location nudging, and Google is tying it to performance reviews, and Dell is actually flagging workers and doing a code. You get like a blue flag if you've got great attendance, and then you get probably a red flag if you are not, in compliance with this. So it's tied to really whether you can keep your job or not. But I'll tell you what, the office workers are fighting back, and they're fighting back in really kind of a funny way. As you can imagine, there's been a lot of discussion on this online and a ton of backlash. And so I went into Reddit, and somebody had posted that they got caught with a mouse jiggler. There's all kinds of tools. There's mouse jigglers, and there's different ways of doing things. So just a little scroll here through Reddit, you can come up with some good ideas. I'm not an advocate of this. I want to be clear. I'm an advocate of put in an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. I believe in those type of values. And if you want to work for an employer, there can be a lot of good things about it. Okay, fine. But really, the one that I wanted to share with you that I got a kick out of, and actually I think is the most ingenious, is this one guy who said, turn on transcribe, turn on transcribe in Word and play some music or some company video you're supposed to watch anyway. It'll keep typing as it hears you speaking. So that's just a little bit of humor there. But honest to God, I've always said I do think this kind of stuff is going to backfire. And there's somebody else who I think is very important and is a winner in the corporate world. And that's one of my favorite guys. And here's what he has to say about it. So let's take a look at that. Kevin O'Leary.
Teams and remote teams, which is part of every business today, is moving from micromanagement, day-to-day management, and trying to do 15 Zoom calls or whatever it is a day to project-based management. You set goals a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, and you don't care when the employee works. You don't care at all. What you care is, do they hit the target on the project-based goal?
Correct.
So are you going to close?
That's what I call a healthy working environment. So, I mean, ask yourself, and I still maintain my theory of the case. First of all, do you really want to work at a place like this? And second of all, do they really think that, eventually they're going to need us? I do kind of think that this type of stuff is going to backfire. I hope to see the pendulum swing the other way. There's actually more news about some big business people in tech who had previously said that AI wasn't going to take their jobs, and now fast forward a couple of months later, and they're announcing that they just don't need that many headcount. Anyway, that's the state of America. If you want to learn a little bit more about job search, check out my video on new ways to job search. And then if you want to understand what quiet cracking is, I did a video on that. This is technically called quiet firing, and they're using deep surveillance of you and of me to quiet fire you. So, welcome to the new world, pal. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.